Well, this isn't the best view, but welcome to Denver. One of the perks of living in a big city, right? You got a lot of traffic. I like Denver. It's a nice city. So I'm down here to take step 3, but the last few days in Denver have been nice. I'll just show you guys this stadium here. That's where the Denver Broncos play, in Power Field at Mile High, and you can kind of see downtown over there. But I got 9 hours to go back to Montana. So as I try to get back there, and as I'm stuck in this traffic, I just wanted to reflect on the last day of step 3, the second day of step 3, which I took today. And if the traffic picks up, I'll stop the video and talk about it some more. It's a long 9 hours to go. I'll talk about it later. But yeah, I'll start by talking about kind of the structure of the exam. Then the second day is kind of broken down into like 2 different components. So I'll talk about the first half first, and then I'll talk about the second half. But kind of like the same with the first day. I wasn't necessarily prepared for how long the exam was. Like the second day is even longer than the first day. It's from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. was the technical time. Now I got done a little bit earlier, but yeah, it's a nice, I don't know how long that is. That's a very 9 hours probably. And you have 10 blocks of 20 questions for the basically step 2 style questions, and then you have 14 blocks of CCS cases. And so yeah, it was rough, and I didn't really sleep the night before, because interestingly enough, I watched this biohacks video the day before, which I made the mistake of watching because a lot of those videos are full of crap. But basically the advice from the video was that the day before the exam, wake up at 6:30 a.m. no matter what, right? Because then you'll be ready to sleep the night before. But I purposely sleep deprived myself the night before the exam, and you know what, I still couldn't sleep the night before the day before the exam. And then the night before the exam, I thought maybe I'd be, sleep deprived enough to fall asleep early, but that didn't happen, right? I still had insomnia. So anyways, you guys know your own bodies, but I wouldn't necessarily follow that advice. It's a good thing the traffic's finally picking up as I head out of Denver here. But yeah, so yeah. So just a few more points kind of on the structure of the exam before I talk about the actual exam. One tip I would have, I would have a few tips, to get through the whole thing. But the first one would be today I tried to be really conservative with my break time, because you technically only have 50 minutes of break time, and so I took a break pretty much after every second block, and then I only gave myself 15 minutes for lunch. And it wasn't enough break time, because as I got into the 9th and 10th block, the final blocks on the first half, I was really tired, and not I was falling asleep, but the way that manifests is I would read questions, and then I would be what did I just read? And I have to read the question again. And basically you have 30 minutes for 20 questions, and I found myself using the whole 30 minutes and kind of rushing the last few questions on those last few blocks. But the reason I say don't be afraid to use as much break time as you can in that first half of day 2 is because the second half, the CCS cases, you get a lot of time back. If you get done with the cases early, you get a lot of time back. And so I got when I was done with the first half, I only had 10 minutes of break time left, but when I was done with the whole exam, I had like 45 minutes of break time left just because I got done with the CCS cases early. And it's not like I did amazing on the CCS cases or anything either, which I'll talk about that in a minute. So that's number one. And number two, something that really helped me, as kind of the sleep deprivation set in, was just moving around. So my exam was kind of set in this nice building in Denver. The Solarium is what it's called. Kind of this big office building, 3 floors. So what I did is, like, every break, I took the stairs and I ran up to the 3rd floor. And then the 3rd floor is like abandoned. It's a Saturday, so I also kind of like ran down the hallway. Got my heart rate up, kept me awake. So, just move around, that helps too. But yeah, I mean, it's a real struggle, the whole 9 hours. I don't know if anybody watching this is a NASCAR fan, but it made me think about like the Coca-Cola 600. So I used to watch a lot of NASCAR back in the day. I obviously don't have the time to watch it anymore, and I don't really care about the drivers as much anymore because Dale Earnhardt Jr. retired. But when I was reading his autobiography, a few years back when I was in high school, I remember something he had written about was like, with the Coca-Cola 600, being 600 miles long, that race, you could really feel the fatigue, at the end, even though you're a pro at racing, right? All he does is race. All we do is, practice questions and study and all that crap. And yet, if it's that long, you're gonna feel fatigued, you're gonna feel tired because your body's just not used to it. And so that's kind of how the structure of the exam was. So leaving Denver has been an adventure, to put it nicely. To be more accurate, it's been kind of a pain in the ass. You can see I'm still kind of stuck in traffic, and I don't know, pretty far out from Denver at this point. There's just a lot of people that live here. And to give credit where credit's due, Denver, like the actual city, does a pretty good job with public transportation. There's like a light rail in Denver, and then most of the lanes on the highway are like 5 to 6 lanes. So if you just take like the leftmost lane on the highway in Denver, you can get past the traffic pretty fast, even though there's still a lot of traffic, and you have to like really calculate like when to change lanes and stuff when there's so many lanes. Like you have to know where your exit is. But kind of the north side of Denver, what's been pretty annoying is that there's a bunch of toll roads and expressways and shit on the north side of Denver, and trying to avoid those toll roads and get out of Denver is pretty hard. That's what I've been trying to do, and it just added like an extra hour to my travel time. So I guess I should have just taken the toll road. But they're not even like actual tolls, so I don't even know how I would pay for it, like would the bill come in the mail, or I don't know. But it's just stupid. I mean, roads of all things. I don't think you have to be a socialist to say that we shouldn't be paying for roads. Like, just what the hell. So yeah. But anyways, rant about Denver over. How about the first half of the exam? So like I said, the first half of the exam is basically step 2 style questions, 20 questions each, and then 10 blocks, and it felt absolutely terrible. I mean, I don't think there was a single question where, I mean, there was a few, but for the most part, there wasn't a lot of questions where I was like, I know this is the answer. And I'm saying this, as somebody who did all of UWorld, somebody who studied more than most people probably. I did all of UWorld. I did, a bunch of practice NBMEs. I did the free 137. And, for day 1, the free 137 it resembled the day 1 part of the exam a lot. But day 2, man, there was a lot of concepts on there, or maybe I just didn't recognize the concept, but I felt like there was a lot of concepts on there that I hadn't seen, and a lot of cases where I didn't know what was going on, or if I did know what was going on, there was a lot of questions where there was like 2 right answers and you had to choose the best answer. So I don't know, I just felt uneasy for, you know, the majority of the questions on day 2. So I don't know, I was pretty like angry, you know, during the first half of the exam, because I was just like, what the hell is this? I mean, and when I was studying for step 3, you know, in internal medicine residency, a lot of people were saying things like, you know, if you do IM residency, you're already studying for this. Or, I don't know, most of you have probably heard this, where it's like step 1 is 2 months, step 2 is 2 weeks, and step 3 is you show up with a number 2 pencil. That's a bunch of bull crap. I mean, it's an outdated, very outdated reference. It's not like that anymore. I guarantee you, regardless of whether or not you're internal medicine, if you don't study for step 3, you're gonna fail. Because, you know, even though, yes, I've seen a lot of like the internal, I mean, I am internal medicine, which means I have like a broad exposure to things. There's still a lot of like OB-GYN questions on there. There's a lot of questions about neonates, right? Like babies, where I have no idea what's going on. And if you don't study, then you're gonna fail. That's just the fact of the matter. There's a Buc-ee's gas station here, and I've never been to one of those before, so I think I'll pull over and head inside, kind of see what that's like. But yeah. Well, this is what Buc-ee's looks like. It's basically like a super gas station. It's not really such a big deal, but I don't know, it's for whatever reason, it has kind of like a cult status. And so let's take a look. I must say I'm genuinely impressed. I mean, I didn't think it would be a big deal, but it's probably one of the nicest gas stations I've ever been to. Check out those mountains in the background there. But yeah, I got a Texas cheesesteak burrito. Got some cookie dough balls, and that's the pastry I stole from the hotel this morning. But no, that's a pretty nice gas station. The bathrooms also were super clean. I mean, there's like the hand sanitizers inside of and dispensers inside of every stall. The stalls are all clean. I mean, way more than you'd expect from a gas station. So no, that was pretty cool. I think the one thing that kind of I think if I had to give Buc-ee's some feedback, the one thing I would say though is there's no like windshield wipers. So I still got a bunch of bug juice on my windshield. So, I mean, come on, like, you're gonna be a super gas station, you're not even gonna have like windshield wipers. But no, that was pretty cool. So yeah, let's hit the road. So anyways, long story short, the first half of the day kind of sucked. I mean, those were some hard questions, and you know, I was very uneasy about all of them. And the thing is, like, I really hope I passed, because if I didn't, I don't even know what to study. You know, it's like that's really what got under my nerves during the exam. I was like, you know, I did all this studying, you know, and I still don't know what the hell's going on with like half this stuff. So I don't know. So that was the first half of the day. And then when it comes to the CCS cases, I think my own like personal performance, I'm kicking myself over some things I did already. But with that being said, the ccscases.com does a really good job of preparing you for it. And I'll make another video later after I pass, God willing, with like a more detailed report of exactly how I studied using ccscases.com and things like that. But like, genuinely speaking, like the order sets and just like the interface and everything is literally the same as ccscases.com. The one difference is it takes a lot longer to load. So like on ccscases.com, when I was doing it on there, I would usually just spam a bunch of orders, because I don't know whether or not this is true, but based on the impression that ccscases.com gives, there's the MBME doesn't penalize you for extra orders as long as they're not invasive. So like, you know, you get HCG, you know, HCG on every young female, you know, in pregnancy age and things like that. You can get a urinalysis on pretty much everybody. But on the real exam, you know, the CCS cases are broken down into 20-minute segments and 10-minute segments. So, and then it takes a very long time to put every single order in. And so if you put a bunch of orders in, it's gonna basically waste a bunch of your time, and you're not gonna have the time to cycle through the case, you know, make the time go forward in the case and figure out what's actually going on with your patient. So you do need to be more conservative with your orders when you're doing those CCS cases. Like, so like I don't necessarily agree with the information that's on most of Reddit, which is like, oh, you just need to spam a bunch of orders. No, I mean, you still need to kind of have somewhat of a directed plan. Like, yeah, get a CBC on everybody, yeah, get a CMP on everybody, but, you know, you don't need to get a chest X-ray on everybody, right? So on and so forth. You do on most people, though, you know, as far as those CCS cases go. But, no, I mean, yeah, I think those cases were fair. You know, I had one patient that had had a bad outcome because I got some like bad notifications on that case, like, oh, patient is still in pain, and then the case ended. So pretty sure I messed up that case. But no, I can't complain about the second half of the exam. I thought it was fair, at least. So with all of that being said, the last thing I want to do is kind of, as we look at these mountains here, and that's the nice thing about the American West, man. Landscape is nice. I mean, I can't say the same for Wyoming, which is what I'm about to go into, but for the most part, the landscape is nice out here. Anyways, the last thing I want to do is just kind of talk about my impression of Step 3. And I'm just being perfectly honest here. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to rant or complain. This exam is a scam. This exam is just unacceptable. And, you know, there's a lot of parts of medical training which are abusive, quite frankly, which we just kind of accept, right? And it's gotten better, right? So like, it used to be normal that people would have 28-hour calls, and in a lot of places they still do, but like, you know, in my residency we don't have 28-hour calls, right? So in a lot of aspects it's getting better, but one kind of, I think, outdated, just, you know, basically abusive, you know, torturous thing left behind from the era of making it normal to torture residents is Step 3. I mean, and there's a few reasons for that. I mean, so I'll start by talking about like why it's actually like I'll start by saying this. I do think every single doctor, I don't care if you're a pathologist or a dermatologist or a pediatrician or you know, whatever you are, I think, or a psychiatrist, whatever, I think every doctor should have like a basic, you know, intern knowledge. Like they should have a basic, how do I put it? They should have a basic knowledge of all of medicine, right? Albeit a very basic knowledge. Like, I don't think a psychiatrist should be expected to know how to run codes and things, you know, because everybody is good in their own thing. But and of course, if they do know how to do those things, great. But the thing is, you know, medical school is what gives us that basic knowledge. That's why we take Step 1. That's why we take Step 2. And for that matter, Step 1 has a lot of useless crap on it too. But that's why we take those 2 exams, right? So we already took those exams. We already passed those exams. Now residency is a time where we have to focus on our field. You know, I need to focus on internal medicine. A psychiatry resident needs to focus on, you know, psychiatry. A general surgery resident needs to focus on learning surgery, right? We already have that knowledge. That's why we took Step 2. And so really just having this exam hanging over my head, you know, since the start of intern year has to some extent made me a worse doctor, right? Because I could have used all the time I used to study for this exam I mean, I did all of UWorld. I did 2 UWorld practice exams. I did 2 NBME practice tests. I did a bunch of CCS cases. All of that time I used to study for this exam could have been used for 2 things. One is like relaxation and mental health, like actually having real hobbies. And 2 is studying for my field, which is internal medicine, doing mixed app questions. Maybe actually studying cases that I see in real life, during the day. But no, instead I've been just trying to do like some UWorld questions every single day after coming home from words or whatever rotation I'm on. So it's just an unneeded level of stress, these past few months. And God willing, I inshallah, God willing, I hope I pass this exam, because I really want to be done with this stress. I've been doing Anki every single day. It's so, and for what? I'm going to forget everything about this exam that's not internal medicine within the next couple of years, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. So what's the point of putting us through step 1 again? Putting us through step 2 again? It's just stupid. So that's number 1. That's the number 1 reason I think it's a scam. The number 2 reason is the money. I mean, so it costs, like, the whole registration process costs like $1,000. UWorld costs like $500 to $1,000. CCScases.com costs $100 just for 1 month. If you want longer, it costs a lot more. And so I was lucky in that my program covered my cost. They paid the $1,000 like registration fee. So I'm grateful for that. But still, I've maybe spent like $500, $600 probably within the past 3 days. On gas, driving all the way down to Denver, 9 hours. With this stupid war going on, the gas prices are like I just paid for gas. It was like 3.78. And so, I could have used that $600 on something else, like paying off my loans, or I don't know, something else. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. The exam's a scam, and I don't mean any personal insult to anybody working at the NBME or anything like that, but that's just the fact of the matter. I think if you're gonna keep that exam, because I can somewhat see an argument to have some sort of exam for interns, even though I disagree. I don't think we should, but if that's kind of the consensus, that the interns should still have, regardless of their specialty, should still have some sort of standardized exam. It doesn't need to be 2 days. It doesn't need to be 9 hours long both days. That's a sadistic, it makes no sense. It's just, I want this fucking person to suffer. That's pretty much all it comes down to. Here's how it should be. It should be like 3 hours total and only CCS cases, right? Because that's the only thing that's different about the exam compared to step 1 and step 2. Or, fine, you want to include that step 1 and step 2 stuff, make it 1 day, 8 to 9 hours. 8 hours, okay, don't make it 9 hours, that's sadistic. 8 hours, and then have like maybe 5 blocks of step 1 stuff, 5 blocks of step 2 stuff. Actually, no, maybe like 3 blocks of step 1 stuff, because a lot of it's irrelevant. 7 blocks of step 2 stuff, and then the rest of the day can be CCS cases, right? But in 2 days, because I paid like 4 extra days at the freaking hotel too, just because it's 2 separate days, and so I don't know, man. And I could have used this week going on like actual vacation. Like in my last video, I talked about how I am feeling, my mental mood is actually better this week, surprisingly, even though I've had this test hanging over my head compared to a lot of the prior weeks of residency, just because I'm not working as much. But I could have actually gone on an actual vacation, right, instead of going on a step 3 vacation. Okay, so yeah. So anyways, kind of a long rant, but yeah, I still think this exam is kind of a scam. So anyways, with all that being said, we're going to head back, and hopefully I don't hit any wildlife or anything when I'm in Wyoming, but I got a long road ahead of me. So good luck to anybody who's watching this video who is studying for step 3 or step 2 or whatever. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and y'all have a good one. Thank you.